Thank you everyone for joining tonight or today, depends on where you live. We have a panel on scalability and interoperability, and we have with us 5 very illustrious guests. I will let each one of them introduce themselves. So first, let's start with Jack.
Oh yeah, actually I'm Weijia Zhang. I'm the VP of engineering of Wanchain.
Okay.
Yeah, I changed my name here, screen name here. I'm VP of engineering of Wanchain. Wanchain is a star project that was focused on bridging blockchains. Today we know that Ethereum and Bitcoin and the EOS do not talk to each other, and Wanchain's mission is to build bridges for that. So we are able to connect with Ethereum, connect with Bitcoin and EOS already on that. And then next step, we're working on two-way bridge to connect the transfer asset from one chain to other blockchain as well. And then we're doing the direct bridge as well. And we're also working with EA, the Ethereum Enterprise Ethereum Alliance, to build the standards and specifications so that we can make it easier to build the core infrastructure to bridge all these blockchains together for both public and private blockchains. And great to meet you here.
That's great. Now, Deniz.
Yeah, hi, Deniz, everyone here from Kyber Network. And I'll keep it very simple. Basically, Kyber Network is a liquidity protocol that's deployed on Ethereum. And the way it makes the market is it pulls in liquidity from many different sources, including professional market makers, including existing decentralized exchanges like Uniswap. It brings them together and it pushes it downstream to dozens of different apps, like wallets, like games, like different kinds. Anything that requires one token to be swapped to another, it goes through Kyber, gets swapped to what the other side basically needs. And that means you can stick it into DeFi and all sorts of different crazy things. But that's like Kyber in a nutshell.
Okay. Larry?
Hi, everyone. My name is Larry. I'm from IoTeX. IoTeX is building the Internet of Trusted Things. So we focus on the intersection of blockchain, IoT, and privacy, and starting to power the first privacy-preserving smart devices on our network. In the IoT space, the two topics of this panel, scalability and interoperability, are crucial, right? Scalability to ensure that the streaming data from multiple devices is managed correctly, and interoperability in the sense of providing the ability for devices to talk to each other. So, outside of just blockchain foundational scalability, interoperability, we also think about things on, off-chain and layer 2. So just happy to provide some insights, and thanks so much for the invite.
Great. Alin?
Hi guys, I'm Alin from Modex. Modex is a research and development company in the blockchain technology. Our main priority is to enable enterprises to adopt blockchain technologies in their current infrastructure, their current software. So what we are trying to do is basically to take the blockchain technology, all its benefits, and to put them all together with traditional software databases in the first place. We are focused on helping company to understand that blockchain is not necessarily a dark hole, and it's something which can actually help. And this is what we are focusing mostly.
Okay, and last but not least, Benny. I don't think I cannot hear you. I'm not sure if the others can hear you.
No.
No.
No one can hear.
Okay, until Benny fixes his microphone, let me. No.
Okay.
Yeah. Now it works. Yeah.
Yeah. Does it work?
Yeah.
No?
It's working. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. Okay. So I'm Beniamin Mincu, founder and CEO of Elrond, and Elrond is a layer 1 solution, which means we've built a blockchain from scratch to bring a 1000x improvement in throughput, execution speed, and transaction costs, such that we finally can have a transition from dial-up to broadband applied to the blockchain space. So I'm quite happy to have this discussion and be part of the panel.
Okay, thank you. Thank you everyone for your introduction. So as I was going to say, the topic we will cover today is scalability and interoperability. And I will first look at scalability. And if you ask why do we need scalability, remember that the technologies that we use today that are widely spread in terms of blockchains, Bitcoin and not so much Ethereum, they reach a speed of, let's say, in Ethereum's case, 15 transactions per second. And if we look at all the whole population of the world, which and we only want half of them to use one of these blockchains, that I've done a short calculation here, and it tells me that each of us, if each of the 3 billion people that would want to run a transaction on the blockchain will need to do a transaction every 10 years. That's with the current scalability level. And that's why this topic is so important. And I want to each of you to give me an impression of where is this scalability taking us? What are the the trends? What are the ways in which we can achieve this 1000x, as Benny said, the improvement in terms of transactions? So let's Weijia.
Well, thank you. Yeah, actually, I worked for Dell for 13 years. And I look at this problem in different ways. I'm thinking more about interoperability than scalability, because scalability involves a lot of computing improvement, not just the software itself, not just the blockchain itself. It also relies on the hardware and other parallel computing, other things. And my view is very different. I think that we need big companies like IBM and like Dell and AMD and Intel to join this force to really revolutionize the scalability. I know there are some plasma and other things that they are working on. Those are at the OS level above the application level. And I think to truly improve scalability, we probably need to work it from hardware up. And there are two ways. One is to scale out and one is to scale up, right? And the mainframe is basically a scale up. And I think this must be a scale out. And there should be some solution with both the memory access, the storage access, and also the computing power improvement, and also parallel processing. And that's very computer specific. I really hope that big company can join force into this one to improve it.
Okay, thanks.
Sorry if yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to invite you.
Yeah, I mean, the way I see it, like we have the blockchain trilemma, right? So it can either be like scalable and decentralized, or secure, scalable. And right now you're saying, okay, if we have scalability, like which combination can we have and which combination can we not have, right? And leaving scalability out and having decentralization and security is the one that you actually want for now to begin with, because we're still so early on that we don't even need the scalability yet while we build the foundation of our security and our decentralization. Because if we skip decentralization, well, with security and scalability, you already have something close to Visa. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, and there's like many companies that do a great job. Some of you guys work on hybrid approaches, and that's amazing. And for enterprise, that's what needed. But looking for me, like what crypto is exciting about is this decentralization, where you have control of your own funds. So for me, I would always place decentralization as a core of that equation, and hope that scalability will one day be worked on. That's my view of it. So I don't think it's a problem that we don't have it just yet.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you think that we are way too early to be worrying about, and in a way it's true, because there are some changes that are needed, both in terms of perception of the users, also in terms of perception of the let's say structures that the users will be engaging into this. Larry, what's your view on this?
Yeah, my view on this is that, I agree with both points that Weijia and Deniz had just indicated, right? I think that from my point of view, you have to think about the end user and what they're using your platform for, right? If they're a payments processor, then of course they need, thousands of transactions per second eventually. But if your platform is meant more for like an identity root of trust, where you're just persisting identities and doing a lot of off-chain scaling, off-chain transactions, you don't necessarily need to have the thousands of transactions per second. Of course, you can't be stagnant at 2 or 3 transactions per second. There's a minimum bar that you need to cross. But the nature of consensus and scalability is also different from network to network, right? I believe that multiple rounds of confirmations also adds to the lag time. So things like instant finality. IoTeX network has 5-second block times with instant finality, and for the purposes of what we're doing in the IoT space, which is arguably very scalability demanding. I see that we're already working closely with the end users to figure out exactly what they need, right? They need trust and they need decentralization. As Deniz mentioned, scalability, once you try to run more things on chain, is definitely needed. But yeah, I think we're getting there, right? But I think focusing on the other parts of that scalability trilemma, decentralization and security, I do agree with Deniz. Those are very important factors for today.
Alin, how do the things look from your point of view? I understand that you focus more on the higher layers of the spectrum, and you try to hide somehow the complexities of the blockchain themselves for the users.
Yes, our focus is to keep the end users and even developers as far as possible from the inside of the blockchains. So not necessarily because it's very complex, but somehow people get scared when they hear about that. They imagine that it's a huge cost, and if you have to hire a developer in blockchain, it's going to be very expensive. But getting back to the problem, the discussion, we have tested a lot of blockchain engine, commercial, non-commercial, even those out there. And I believe that scalability is one of the major features of the blockchain technology. I mean, noticing blockchain many years ago for me was one of the most impressive things, that a simple piece of code is able to run in so many deployments all around the world without any assistance, without any support team. Not necessarily too many bugs. So, but in the same time, I don't take sides. I mean, I believe that blockchain should not be considered, if it's not all together, it's not blockchain. I think everyone can choose from blockchain wherever they find suitable. Maybe just the immutability of data, maybe the decentralization, maybe the scalability. So it shouldn't be a mix. If it's not all of this, is not blockchain. I think like any other technology, we should adopt it where we need it, when we need it. If it fits the purpose, it's just fine.
Okay. So basically, the idea is that everybody should choose from the 3 aspects that were previously mentioned: scalability, decentralization, security. Should pick the 2 that are most passionate about and stick with those 2. Benny, I know that Elrond is, I think, the lowest level possible out of all the projects here. So what's your view on scalability? I mean, I think I know it, but let's...
Yeah, for the sake of the discussion, I'll say that I'll take a much more contrarian view than the especially two viewpoints expressed at first. First of all, I don't think there's any hope of the larger companies solving these super difficult problems, just because in practice, the more independent parties you have trying to solve a problem, essentially the problem becomes much more complex as a function of overhead in interests, communication, and different other problems that are not foreseeable from the outside, But what happens is you start working with 10 other companies, and then 10 years down the road, you sort of are still working on a problem and have not found a solution. I'm not saying that nobody can do it. I'm just saying that from practice, this is why startups work. It's a bunch of people in a garage pulling days and nights and so forth. And at some point, if they find a solving solution, the interesting solution at that point, it moves forward. And the second point is, especially with respect to the convention that is called the scalability trilemma, which has been useful, but useful in a sense of lazy intellectual construction, in a sense that if you cannot solve something, then you'll try to find some sophisticated explanation why this cannot be solved. And then until someone proves that this whole construct does not necessarily apply or had some limitation, because obviously it was there was some utility to it, but I think Elrond is here to basically prove that you can build a new layer 1 based on adaptive state sharding and secure proof of stake that is fully on chain, that can process more than 10,000 transactions per second with the 5 seconds latency and the 100x less cost than the alternatives today, not in 2 or 3 years, but today. And I think this is super exciting because, as mentioned in the beginning, I believe that one of the important inflection points in the early days of the internet was basically the transition from this dial-up to broadband era. And although there's another problem in the blockchain space, which is the UX problem, the scalability problem is a huge obstacle if you look at the different use cases that have been tried and the reasons why they did not work and so forth. So to sum it up, I think this is probably the most exciting period possible for the blockchain space, not only from a macro standpoint, because people find an alternative and to the global economy, the conventional fiat currencies and so forth, but also because the technology has fundamentally improved very, very significantly. And this year will be super exciting for us, especially to launch the Elrond mainnet in a few weeks, but then also to see all the other projects that have been working on interesting stuff and see them come to market and start building real adoption pipelines.
Okay, so I realized now that there is one person which we skipped. He joined late in the role of the panel. Kadan, please introduce yourself and give us a 1 minute overview of this problem of scalability.
Hi guys, hey, nice to meet you all. Thanks for your time and participation in this panel. So my name is Kadan Stadelmann. I head up the tech layer at the Komodo platform. So just in one simple sentence, what's Komodo platform, right? I mean, we build a huge set of different tools and technologies for blockchain infrastructure, interoperability, scalability, etc. So the main point with Komodo is that we provide a smart chain platform that's built on a multi-chain architecture, right? Why multi-chain architecture? Okay, I personally believe we have sort of two perspectives or two ways, right, to approach this scalability problem. First, well, it's not a solution, but first way is basically just crying and waiting for the tech to mature and just complain about tech not being mature and ready enough, basically infrastructure-wise, to carry the load for the scalability that we are all targeting, right? I think approach number two is basically using the tech and the infrastructure, the physical limitations that we have right now, and designing our architectures in a way that would enable us to still scale up infinitely, right? We just believe that this single chain architecture design that we are basically seeing across the entire industry is sort of incompatible with our current physical infrastructure limitations. Thus, we won't ever reach the limits we want, right? It's pretty much all around this is PR marketing, blah, blah, sorry to call it like that. but we all know that you can't bypass the technical limitations. So by having multi-chain architectures means multiple blockchains, right, building a consensus layer in order to achieve, right, the bandwidth that we need and that we want, right? And as for the interoperability layer, just give me 30 seconds for this part. I think that's like quite important. So as for interoperability, we've worked out a DEX system that's basically a third generation technology. And we're using this tech right now in an almost production ready environment. So if you get like on Google Play Store and you type in Atomic DEX, that's what our tech is called, you'll be able to download the trustless, decentralized multi-coin wallet with a full DEX integrated. And this DEX is an interop layer to different blockchains, right? We were talking Ethereum, ERC. We really cover over 90% of the CMC, of the coin market cap list. Regarding the compatibility of Atomic DEX. So you're already able today to use this tech to trade again Bitcoin, Komodo, Lycon, whatever, against Ethereum, ERC tokens, but we're also working on second and third generation protocol integrations, such as Tezos, right? We've implemented full Tezos support. So I think we all, across the entire industry, we've proven that yes, it is possible to build these interop layers, and we're able to bridge, right, all these different blockchain protocols and technologies. But trust me, we reached a point where it's not just about, oh, let's bridge Bitcoin to coin X or whatever. We've reached a point where we have to figure like how to bridge our industry as such to the rest of the world and of the industry, right? The next interoperability layers won't be DEX platforms or DeFi systems or whatsoever, right? It will be systems that make blockchain technology compatible with the rest of the non-blockchain tech-based industry, right? So, I mean, I believe.
So let's because we are like 5 minutes.
I just wanted like.
But anyway, the idea is, and I will let everyone just for a minute, yes, but not the minute that Kadan took, the real minute. I will ask you. So scalability. One alternative to scalability is to have interoperability. So if you cannot have a system that does a lot of transactions per second, maybe you have a system that does a few transactions. Maybe you have many systems that do few transactions per second, but they talk to one another. So let's see. Let's start again from Weijia. 1 minute, please, on this interoperability issue. Is it a solution or not? You're muted.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I'm the co-chair of cross-chain interoperability task force of EA, Enterprise Experience Alliance. Actually, I did a lot of research on that one. And there's 3 layers for interoperability. One is the interoperability for tokens. And then I think Ron Wesnick, who used to be the EA director, he formed IWA, Interwork Alliance, to work on this token interoperability. That's 1 layer. And second layer is the interoperability for blockchain clients. And I think EA is working on that. There are several specifications for that already. And we are working, Wanchain's focus is on cross-chain interoperability so that you can let different blockchain talking to each other, whether they're private or public. And I think that's extremely important. And we are at the stage to make TCP/IP kind of achievement for internet be kind of done in blockchain so that we are letting different blockchain talking to each other. And I believe there'll be thousands, millions of blockchain coming together for both private and public. And there's definitely a need and a chance for blockchain community to achieve that, to achieve the cross-chain interoperability. So I'm looking forward to that, and we're looking forward to working with other people.
Yeah. Okay. Deniz?
I mean, like, I think it's exciting that there's projects that are working on it, but I think like in the grand scheme of things, I would rather see like these projects actually capture value within their own ecosystems first before thinking about interoperability, because right now there doesn't seem to be as much adoption and traction as we would have hoped for. Like looking at last 2-3 years, the organic growth wasn't as much as I'd like to see. But if we can overcome that, then yeah, I think interoperability is going to be key to connecting so many different kind of systems, and that's the beauty of it. It's all decentralized, so it can all kind of talk to each other and connect as long as you get these bridges right, and you guys are building it. But it's not something like I, as an outsider, think about for next 1 or 2 years will be like a priority.
Okay, Larry?
Yeah, I mean, I think, we're talking about very project specific things right now. Like let's dumb down the conversation a bit and just talk about, you know, what are we really doing here, right? Like this whole blockchain industry is meant to enable new types of use cases, right? And it's really important to think about what those use cases mean, right? So to draw an analogy to the real world, right? Think about a race car, an armored car, and a normal car, right? Normal car is just what we use every day. Race car, ultra scalable, get things from A to B in a super fast way. And an armored car is something that will protect all of your assets with a surety, but it's only going to go like 30, 40 miles an hour, right? What we're talking about here is trying to create an armored race car, which, you know, it's combining multiple different projects here, what we're working on to ultimately reach that goal, right? Interoperability is the same thing. So I think that, you know, all of these fundamental components are very, very important, and different projects are working on different parts of the tech stack, right? But at the end of the day, you know, I don't think it's really a discussion. Of course, scalability is important. Of course, interoperability is important, but what's the path to get there, and what use cases are, you know, we're not designing solutions looking for problems. We're trying to find problems that need solutions, right? So just my 2 cents there.
Okay, so I'm sorry, but Alin and Benny, you only have 30 seconds each. So please, Alin, very quickly, your one idea about interoperability.
I believe blockchain, it's at its early stages, and interoperability doesn't have too many use cases apart from cryptocurrencies, of course. But we find ways to use blockchain to facilitate interoperability between different databases. So basically, we use blockchain to have the same database structure in different database engines, like one MongoDB and one I don't know, Oracle or anything else. So in conclusion, I think, like Larry said, it depends what's the problem, and then you find the right solution to see if blockchain it is an option or not.
Okay, and Benny, last.
I would say again that it was interesting how our colleague here from IoTeX, IoTeX, has used the analogy, but it breaks down, because if you look at the Cybertruck, you basically have an armored truck, which is super fast, super secure, and super sexy. So I think today we can basically build these architectures, but I do think that interoperability is a secondary principle to solving scalability. If you combine several protocols that are unscalable, you just lose a lot more energy in the intercommunication between them, and from 7 transactions per second you'll achieve 3 between the
we unfortunately we are at the end of our time. I would like to talk more, but for now I will thank everyone for joining today, and let's stay for the next sessions.